Ethan sat in his small workshop, staring at the holographic screen in front of him. The auction had ended hours ago, and now he had won his latest lot. Space junk, they had called it. Scrap metal, broken satellites, and maybe some rare minerals if he was lucky. For someone like Ethan, every little piece of space debris could be sold for a profit. He had been buying and selling for years, and although he wasn't rich, he survived comfortably. Today, he thought, he had luck on his side. The crate had just arrived, a large metal box with reinforced locks and strange markings on the sides. It hovered silently in the transport bay of his warehouse. Ethan wiped his hands on his overalls, his mind already racing with possibilities. Maybe there was a small alien artifact inside. Something valuable he could sell for a fortune. Maybe it was just useless scrap. But he had a good feeling this time. His instincts rarely failed him. He activated the crate's lock sequence, listening to the quiet whirring of machinery as the seals disengaged. With a final click, the crate slowly opened, and a soft, warm light spilled into the dim workshop. Ethan froze. He had expected metal, wires, maybe even a glowing mineral or two, but not this. Inside the crate was a girl. Or at least she looked like a girl. She was small, maybe 12 or 13 by human standards, with large almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly in the low light. Her skin shimmered with faint patterns like a constellation frozen in motion, and her hair floated slightly as if underwater. She was staring at him wide-eyed and trembling. Ethan took a step back, his mind racing. This can't be real, he muttered, rubbing his eyes. The girl blinked at him slowly and raised a small hand. A soft sound, almost like a hum, resonated in the room. Then suddenly images flashed in his mind. Dark corridors, strange symbols, and shadowy figures chasing her. He stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a crate. The girl's eyes widened even more, and Ethan realized she wasn't speaking English, or any language he knew. Somehow she was showing him images directly, a stream of thoughts and feelings he could understand without words. Fear, urgency, danger. Someone was after her, and quickly. Ethan's mind raced. "Okay, think," he whispered to himself. "You can't just call the authorities. They'll take her away. Who knows what they'll do to her?" He could see that much from the flashes of her mind. And the auction? The people who sold her, were they involved in this too? He crouched down, trying to appear non-threatening. "It's okay," he said softly, though he wasn't sure if she could understand him. "You're safe. For now." The girl tilted her head, watching him carefully, her glowing eyes searching his face. He could feel her fear, her uncertainty. But there was also intelligence there. She was not just a child. She was someone important. Ethan pulled a chair over and sat down, keeping his hands visible. He didn't know what to do next, but hiding her was the only option. If anyone found out he had an alien in his warehouse, trouble would come fast. And this wasn't just any alien. It was clear from the energy radiating from her that she was special. Very special. He rummaged through his supplies, pulling out some blankets and food rations he kept for himself during long nights at work. He placed them carefully near the crate, hoping she would eat or rest. The girl cautiously stepped out, her movements fluid and cautious, like she had never touched solid ground before. She sniffed at the blanket, her glowing eyes scanning the workshop, then looked back at Ethan. "Okay," Ethan said, taking a deep breath. "We need a plan. First, we need a name. I can't just call you Space Girl." She blinked at him and an image formed in his mind. A bright star, a spiral, a small word he could only understand as Lyra. "Lyra," he said. "That's your name now." Lyra tilted her head, and for a moment Ethan thought she was smiling. At least that was the closest approximation he could see. She didn't speak, but the fear seemed to fade just a little. He spent the next few hours studying her, trying to understand what she could do. When he reached out to touch her hand, she recoiled slightly, then lifted her own and a soft glow spread from her palm. Objects around her, tools, small boxes, even a loose panel on the wall began to float gently. Ethan stumbled backward, his jaw dropping. "You can move things with your mind?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes flickering with emotion. She was not only intelligent, she was powerful, and someone wanted her badly enough to come after her. Ethan realized the auction lot was never meant for a human buyer. She had been stolen or smuggled into the market for profit, and he had just accidentally rescued her. This was bigger than anything he had ever faced. He needed to act fast. The next morning, Ethan rigged a few security measures in his warehouse, automated turrets, tripwires, and hidden cameras. He needed time to figure out what to do next. He also scavenged a few old ships and vehicles, making sure they were ready to move at a moment's notice. Lyra followed him closely, floating beside him, fascinated by the human machines. She seemed to understand more than he could guess, mimicking his movements and absorbing everything around her. That night, a warning came. A ship appeared in the sky above his warehouse. Sleek, black, and menacing, it hovered silently before landing. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no choice. He grabbed a small rifle and a few grenades, not expecting to use them but prepared for anything. The warehouse door slid open and shadowy figures entered. They wore advanced armor, moving like ghosts. Ethan ducked behind a crate, whispering to Lyra, "Stay close. Don't let them see you." She nodded, glowing faintly, almost as if she understood his words completely. The intruders moved through the warehouse, scanning every corner. Ethan held his breath, counting their steps. Lyra raised her hand and a soft barrier of energy surrounded them, making them invisible to the intruders' sensors for a few moments. Ethan marveled at her instinctive use of her powers. She was not only smart, she was creative. When the agents finally passed, Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. Whoever these people were, they would not give up easily. Lyra was too valuable to them, and now, by choosing to protect her, Ethan had made himself a target as well. Ethan and Lyra spent the next few days preparing. He taught her how to hide, how to move silently, and how to use her powers subtly. In return, Lyra taught him things no human could understand. Glimpses of her home planet, images of alien cities, and ideas that stretched the limits of his imagination. Ethan began to see her not as a child, but as a partner. A very unusual, very powerful partner. But the threat loomed closer. One night he saw lights flickering in the distance, another ship approaching. This time they were faster, more organized. Ethan's hands shook as he loaded his weapons. Lyra floated beside him, eyes glowing fiercely, ready for whatever would come next. "This is it," Ethan whispered. "We run, we fight, or we get caught. Are you ready?" Lyra nodded. Ethan felt a strange calm wash over him. Somehow he knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. And he realized something terrifying and thrilling. He had no idea what he had just gotten himself into. The first part of their adventure was ending, but the real journey, the one that would test every bit of human cunning and alien power, was only beginning. Ethan had thought he was bidding on space junk. Instead, he had won an ally, a friend, and a partner in a game much larger than he could imagine. And somewhere in the stars, those who had stolen Lyra were closing in, unaware that they had just underestimated a human's courage and an alien's power. As the warehouse lights flickered and the hum of distant engines filled the night, Ethan gripped his rifle and whispered, "Let them come. We're ready." Lyra's glow intensified, and for the first time Ethan felt a thrill, not fear. The universe had just opened up in ways he could never have predicted, and he was ready to meet it head-on. And so, their story began. A human who thought he was lucky with space junk, and an alien girl who was more than anyone had imagined. Together they were about to change everything. Ethan's heart pounded as he peered through the reinforced window of his warehouse. The ship that had hovered in the distance was now closer, moving with deadly precision. Its black hull glinted under the distant stars, reflecting light like a predator circling its prey. He crouched behind a crate, glancing at Lyra, who floated beside him. Her glowing eyes were calm, but Ethan knew better. She was ready to defend herself, and if needed, him too. "Stay close," Ethan whispered. "We don't know what they can do." Lyra nodded, her small hand extending slightly, causing objects around her to lift into the air. Tools, boxes, and even the broken panels of old satellites Ethan had stored formed a floating barricade. The intruders would have no easy path. The warehouse door shuddered as the first strikes hit. The human-made turrets Ethan had installed fired automatically, sending pulses of energy toward the attackers. But these were no ordinary intruders. They moved with speed that no human could match, dodging the attacks and moving like shadows. Ethan swallowed his fear and loaded his rifle, scanning for openings. One of the intruders tried to bypass the turrets, running straight for the crate where Lyra crouched. Before Ethan could react, Lyra's hand shot out. A burst of energy knocked the intruder backward, sending him crashing into a stack of crates. Ethan blinked. He had seen her use her powers before, but never with such precision and control. Good, Ethan muttered. But we need a plan. We can't fight them all like this. Lyra floated closer to him, her glowing eyes forming patterns that Ethan could almost understand. She pointed toward the back exit of the warehouse, showing him images of a hidden passage through the old storage tunnels beneath the building. Ethan nodded, realizing that was their only chance. He grabbed her hand, feeling the warmth and power radiating from her. "Let's go," he whispered. Together, they slipped through the hidden passage, moving silently under the warehouse floor. The sounds of combat echoed above them, but the tunnel muffled everything. Ethan's mind raced as he considered their options. They needed a ship. They needed a way to leave the planet before the intruders regrouped. Emerging into the open yard, Ethan's eyes caught sight of a small freighter he had bought months ago. Barely operational, but still capable of flight. Its engines were rusty, but he knew he could start it if he pushed the systems hard. Lyra's eyes lit up as she floated toward the ship. Ethan realized she could help him, guiding the energy through the damaged systems to get them running. "Okay," Ethan said, climbing into the pilot seat. "We're going to need a miracle." Lyra hovered beside the control panel. With a wave of her hand, the old systems hummed to life. Lights flickered, screens lit up, and the engines roared weakly. Ethan laughed in disbelief. "You're amazing," he said, adjusting the flight controls. The intruders were quick to notice. From the warehouse, they launched small attack drones, firing energy pulses toward the freighter. Ethan swerved, dodging the blasts while Lyra created a shimmering shield around the ship. The shield flickered, unstable, but it held. As they rose into the atmosphere, Ethan realized just how far they had to go. The intruders were persistent, and he knew this pursuit wouldn't end until they were far away. But for the first time, he didn't feel helpless. With Lyra at his side, he had a chance. They broke through the atmosphere and into space, weaving through asteroid fields and debris. Ethan's skills as a human pilot were tested to their limits. He dodged massive rocks, navigated through narrow corridors between asteroids, and used every trick he had learned over the years. Lyra's powers amplified their movements, pushing the ship in directions no normal engine could achieve. Together, they became a force unlike anything the intruders had anticipated. Hours passed, and they finally found a temporary safe haven, an abandoned mining station at the edge of a distant system. Ethan docked the ship carefully, making sure it was hidden from sensors. He exhaled, feeling a mix of exhaustion and relief. Lyra floated beside him, her glow dimming as she relaxed for the first time since the warehouse attack. "We made it," Ethan said softly, "but this isn't over. They'll come after you again." Lyra nodded, and through her glowing eyes she showed him visions of her home planet. Towering cities, glowing towers, and alien landscapes stretched across the images. She was royalty, an heir to a civilization far beyond human understanding. Her powers were rare, and the rogue factions pursuing her wanted to control the balance of power in the galaxy. Ethan felt a surge of determination. "They don't know who they're dealing with," he muttered. "We'll stop them." Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra prepared. He taught her human strategies, improvisation, and ways to use her powers in combination with human technology. In return, Lyra taught him advanced concepts, ideas that stretched the limits of human understanding. Ethan began to realize that intelligence and courage were not limited to humans. Together, they were stronger than any force pursuing them. One day, as they scouted a nearby asteroid field for resources, a fleet appeared on the horizon. Hundreds of ships, sleek and armed, moving with deadly precision. Ethan's stomach sank. This was not a small group. They had found them. Lyra touched his shoulder, and he felt her confidence radiating through him. "We can do this," she seemed to say. Ethan nodded, gripping the controls. "Let's show them what a human and an alien can do." The battle that followed was unlike anything Ethan had ever faced. The rogue fleet attacked in waves, but Ethan used every trick he had learned in space salvage and smuggling. He led the ships through asteroid fields, causing collisions and chaos among their ranks. Lyra used her powers to disrupt sensors, deflect energy blasts, and protect their small freighter from damage. At one point, a massive cruiser targeted them directly. Ethan's hands shook as he maneuvered the ship, trying to avoid its weapons. Lyra extended her hands, and a surge of energy erupted, creating a massive shield around the freighter. The cruiser fired again, and the energy shield absorbed the attack, sending a ripple through space that knocked the cruiser off course. Ethan couldn't believe what he was seeing. Hours of combat passed, but slowly, the rogue fleet began to retreat. Their numbers were diminished, their formations broken. Ethan and Lyra had not only survived, they had turned the tide. As the last of the enemy ships fled, Ethan floated in the cockpit, exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra hovered beside him, her glow soft and warm. For the first time, he felt a sense of peace. They had won, but more importantly, they had learned to trust each other completely. Ethan looked at Lyra and smiled. "You know," he said, "I thought I was just buying space junk. I never imagined I'd end up here, fighting a fleet, saving an alien princess, and making a friend for life." Lyra tilted her head, her glowing eyes reflecting amusement. Ethan laughed softly, feeling a bond stronger than anything he had ever known. They were no longer just human and alien. They were partners, equals, and together, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and trust could overcome even the most impossible odds. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra explored the abandoned mining station, repairing their freighter and planning their next steps. Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. Lyra's people were far away, and the galaxy was full of dangers and opportunities, but he was ready. He had learned that being human was not about strength or size. It was about heart, creativity, and the willingness to fight for what was right. And with Lyra by his side, he felt unstoppable. As they prepared to leave the mining station, Lyra touched his arm and he understood without words. She wanted to see more, learn more, and experience the galaxy with him. Ethan nodded, feeling a thrill of excitement. They would travel together, face challenges, and discover wonders beyond imagination. The freighter's engines roared to life, and they lifted off from the station. Stars streaked past as they accelerated into the void, leaving behind the remnants of their enemies. Ethan grinned, feeling a sense of freedom he had never known. Somewhere in the depths of space, the rogue factions were regrouping. They would come again, but Ethan no longer feared them. He had learned that with courage, cleverness, and a strong heart, a human could face anything, even a galaxy full of dangers. Lyra floated beside him, her glowing form a constant reminder that the universe was larger, stranger, and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. And together, they would face it all. Ethan leaned back in his seat, watching the stars blur past. He thought about the auction, the crate, and the moment he had opened it. He had expected space junk. Instead, he had found friendship, adventure, and a bond that crossed worlds. And in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of their journey. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and wonders. But for Ethan and Lyra, it was also full of possibilities. And together there was nothing they could not face. They soared into the stars, side by side, ready for whatever the universe would throw at them next.